Shalom and welcome back to another share, exploring the topic of why do bad things happen to good people. So last week we discussed how suffering is part of a divine plan. Maybe, most likely, it's caused by sin. But if it's not caused by sin, then it's caused by Bittul Torah. We spoke about 3 or 4 pshatim, exactly what Bittul Torah is. And finally, you could have done nothing wrong, but suffering could be because you're a tzaddik. Even though you're a tzaddik, suffering comes onto a person because it's Yisurin Shel Ava, and we spoke about different pshatim, exactly what Yisurin Shel Ava is, that somehow suffering improves you as a person. It allows you to grow. Maybe it's bearing the weight of other people's sins, as the Bnei Yeshua puts it. Either way, what we said last week in short was that suffering is part of a divine plan. Suffering is always justified, and somewhere out there's a cheshbon. Right? We go to the Rambam that says that sins cause you to suffer, and mitzvahs cause you to prosper. And if you're 50%, 51% in either direction, that's it. You die straight away if you have too many averos. But the cheshbon is very complicated. The calculation of how to formulate the exact weighing of those different actions, that is what is difficult. But the idea that there is divine justice in this world seems absolute. But what I want to do this week is explore maybe a different question, which is it possible through our own free will choices to harm people even though they don't deserve it? I say, do we have free will? Maybe that's a good question to begin with. Number 2, if we do have free will, how great is that free will? Is that free will absolute? What are the limits on that free will? And if we do have free will, some level of free will, and I'm sure you're all thinking, obviously, Judaism believes that we have free will, then isn't it possible that we can harm each other even if we don't deserve it, they don't deserve it? Okay, so let's begin. So let's begin with, do we have free will? And so obviously it's the very premise of Schar v'Onesh has to be based on free will. You can only be rewarded or punished if you made the decision. It makes no sense for Hashem to punish us or reward us for things that weren't our decision. And therefore, it is obvious that if you believe that Hashem rewards and punishes, you have to believe in free will. What I want to do for a minute is to show not only do people have free will, but people have the ability to intrinsically change. People have the ability to grow and become something else. Let's begin with a positive. That is to say, the generation of Noach. Even before Noach, we have Cain. Cain is told that sin crouches in the corner, waiting to pounce on you. But if you want to, you can beat it. Amazing inspirational words from Hashem to Cain. In the generation of Noach, Hashem waits for 120 years, lest the people do tshuva, lest the people somehow return and change their ways, lest that happen. And so somehow that happens. So that's the hope, that somehow this will happen. Obviously, in reality, it doesn't happen, but Hashem waits patiently, lest they do tshuva. In generation of Yonah, here's an example of post Hashem choosing the Jewish people, and yet when it comes down to it, Hashem sends Yonah. Finally, he makes it after his all his reservations of going to warn the people of Nineveh, an enemy nation. And Yonah walks into town and he says, right? 40 days, Nineveh is going to be destroyed. And the people of Nineveh do tshuva, and the king of Nineveh do tshuva. Yonah Perek Gimel, Pasuk Yud, Vayar Elohim et Maaseim, and Hashem saw their actions, Kishavu B'darkim Hara, that they returned from their evil ways. V'yinachem Elohim al hara asher diber la'asot lahem v'lo asa. Hashem takes a step back and says, I will no longer follow through with my plan of destroying Nineveh. But just as this is true on the positive side, this is also true on the negative side. Take Shlomo HaMelech, for example. Melachim Aleph, Perek Yud Aleph. Shlomo ahav nashim nochiyot rabot. Right? The King Shlomo loved many foreign women, and Bat Paro, and he brings them in, and he marries them, and they lead him astray, and he starts serving, foreign gods. And the Mefarshim explained that he didn't really serve them; rather, he allowed his wives to serve foreign gods, and the pasuk writes about him as if he did it. Either way, pasuk Vav there says, "Vayash Shlomo hara be'inei Hashem, v'lo milei acharei Adonai keDavid aviv." Right? Shlomo did evil in the eyes of Hashem. Whatever he did, however you want to understand it, he did something wrong. And even though he was a wonderful king and he wrote many, books of Tanach, and he was so inspirational, right? He messed up in the end of his life on some level, and he wasn't as great as David, his father. And the truth is, this concept goes all the way through Tanach, that we have the free choice to choose good, to choose bad. Right? Amazing psukim from Yechezkel Lamed Gimel that he says. These psukim are based on these psukim. We have a lot of our tefillot on Yom Kippur, right? Emor alehem chai ani nu'um Adonai im achpotz b'mot hamet. Right? Do I desire the death of the rasha? Ki im b'shuv rasha midarko. Rather that the rasha should return from his evil ways, v'chai, and he should live. Shuvu midarkem haraim. Return from your evil ways. And now listen to the next pasuk, because this is where it's not just do tshuva from your bad things. V'ata ben adam emor b'nei amcha tzidkat tzaddik lo tetzilon b'yom pish'o. The righteousness of the tzaddik will not save him on the day of his sin. That is to say, even if you're a tzaddik, even if you do good things in this world, you still have the ability to destroy your life. You still have the ability to rip out everything good that you have done. Right? And the same is true. There is free choice. Where we are today is not where we have to be in a year from now, for bad and for good. The Rambam really brings this down. Hilchos Tshuva Perek Hey. He says, "Reshut kol adam netuna lo." Right? Free will is given to every man. Im rotzeh litavot atzmo lederech tova liot tzadik. Right? You can do it. You can be a tzaddik and you can be a rasha. No one is protected. That is to say, just to make this a bit more accessible. Right? You can grow up in the most protected community, in the most insular place. The possibility to ruin your life, to bring the world crashing down around you, to break everything that the generations before you tried to build up is in your hand. Everyone has the ability to destroy themselves. And Latova, you can be born in the worst situation ever, in a terrible environment, and you can go from all the way over that and turn it all around, and change everything. I'm reminded of a certain individual. I won't mention him by name, because you might bump into him one day in Edgeware. But growing up, there was a certain man who visited my house a lot. He was already around 50. He had married out and had, I think, 2 daughters from that first marriage and got divorced. And so there he was, a divorcee with 2 non-Jewish daughters. You can't get much more distant from Judaism. And his father died. It's my father's community rabbi, and he went to go to the shiva. People say, Rabbi, what should I do? Because my father hears this a lot. So he said, you're supposed to come to shul, you're supposed to say kaddish, you're supposed to, do things. Leilu nishmas, your mother. Explained a bit, and this person took it on, and he started coming to shul. And he started learning, he started reading books. And the truth is, it wasn't so much his fault. He'd had a very weak Jewish background. And so he married out, not in terrible protest. He never had a reason. He met a girl, fell in love, and got married, had kids. And then the marriage fell apart. They got divorced. And he started learning more and growing more. It's a 100% true story. This was my childhood, part of it anyway. And he started coming to our house a lot for Shabbos meals. And slowly, it was a very long process. He became totally observant. He got remarried and moved to Edgeware. Hence, you might bump into him in Edgeware. But if the story couldn't get any better, his two non-Jewish daughters ended up converting, inspired by their father's passion for Yadus. And so really just to see this in real life, to see that people really have the potential to change and to grow and to do things, I think is really incredible. There's an amazing lashon in the Rambam, Parakei Halacha Beis, where he says, "Hachoter hu hifsidet atzmo." When we sin, we lose ourselves. I think sometimes we feel that mitzvot, we're doing Hashem a favor. And I guess our parents and our grandparents and all those that survived the Holocaust, and everything's weighing down on us. And if we don't live up to our potential, and amazing that lashon of the Rambam is that when we sin, the only person we're truly letting down the most is ourselves. Okay. With all that said, it seems that there is free will, and that there is a place for us to act in the world. And if this is true, is that a fair assessment of the world? You hear these amazing, inspiring stories like the one I just mentioned, and it's true. But it's not most people's situations. Most people are born in a certain situation, die in a certain situation. Think about the movement of religions. All religions. Most people born and die in the same religion. Most people don't move radically from where they are. There is a slow movement in different directions. But is it really true that we're so free? And for here, I think we have to turn to Rav Dessler, to Michtav Meliyahu, because I think he puts it all a bit in context. He says, Rav Dessler argues that we have far less free will than maybe we just stated in the last few minutes. The truth is that most of our life has not been decided for us. We're not decided how rich we are, how poor we are, how our skin color, a million different things that we don't choose in our lives. And those things do affect our circumstance in the world, right? People treat us differently, and the experiences that we have that we don't choose affect us and affect our decision making. And therefore, is it really true that we have total bechira? And so Rav Dessler, Michtav Meliyahu, explains that we do have bechira, but it's just very limited. Every so often, we have a real choice. Some point where we come down to a decision when right now we have left or right, and in that moment we make a move in that direction. That was our free will choice. Right? Maybe there's a person who doesn't have bechira whether to keep Shabbos. He doesn't choose to be Shomer Shabbos. That was the world he grew up in. His bechira chofshis is whether to learn the extra 5 minutes, learn the extra 10 minutes, the extra hasmada. And maybe you have a person whose whole life was brought up in crime, and he doesn't have bechira whether to steal. His bechira is whether to murder his victims or just take their money. And that's, for the moment, that's all we'll leave the Kudas HaBechira. But l'chora, we do have this great concept of bechira. And if that's true, so is it possible that I can hurt someone that doesn't deserve it? And is it possible for me to be hurt by someone even though I don't deserve it? In short, how does bechira interweave with hashgacha pratis? That's really our question of the day. And so certain things are under hashgacha. That means they're absolutely guaranteed by HaKadosh Baruch Hu that no matter what people try to do, certain things can't be tampered with. For example, no one can destroy the Jewish people no matter what they do. Why? Because Hashem guaranteed there's a future for the Jewish people. At some point, they need to return to their land. At some point, they need to have a base of English built. If there's no Jewish people, then how can Hashem keep His promises? So Hashem limits Bechira Chafshis on certain things. That's 100% clear. That no matter what Hitler or Haman tried to do, they were never going to succeed absolutely because Hashem promised, and Hashem keeps His promises. But within this world, is it possible that we get things that we don't deserve? That is really the crux of the question. And l'chora, there are a few Gemaras that are worth pointing out, which seem to point in the other direction. For instance, the Gemara in Brachas tells us, "Hakol b'dei shoyim chutz mi'yirat shamayim." Everything comes from heaven. Everything comes from above, except for Yirat Shamayim. Yirat Shamayim, again, that's the Bechira Chafshis. That's the Nekudas HaBechira, how much you want to act morally. That's your choice, but everything else is not your choice. If that's true. So it's not my choice, my circumstance. Another Gemara that's worth mentioning, which is, Ein Adam nokef etzba'o milemata, elain kein machzirin alav milemala. Right, a person never stubs his finger, right, never injures his finger on earth unless it was announced from above. Right, Gemara in Chulin Daf Zayin. And based on this, the Aruch HaShulchan says, right, in Even Ezer, Siman Kuf Mem Daled, that both kinds of nezek, whether they are bidei Adam or bidei Shamayim, both kinds of nezek are totally from Shamayim. Even though it happens through Bnei Adam, it's totally from Shamayim. So to speak, Hashem decides what each person gets. And then He chooses Shlichim. And for a second, let's pause and think about this. How does it make any sense that Hashem decides what happens to people, and yet the people that do things have Bechira Chafshis? This isn't just knowing the future. This is causing the thing to happen. And for this, there's a caveat to the Rav Dessler that we didn't mention earlier. And the caveat goes like this. It's based on the Gemara in Tainus Yudches Amud Bet. My Tarainus. What is Tarainus? Amru shekbish Tarainus laharog et lolinus v'papus achiv. So Tarainus was this Roman general. He wanted to kill two tzaddikim, Lulinus and Papus. And he said to them, if you are from the nation of Chanina, Mishal, Azariah, Hashem your God should come and save you. And they answered him, we are not as great as Chanina, Mishal, Azariah. You are not as great as Nebuchadnezzar. And anyway, we're Chayiv Misa. But if you kill us, then you'll be punished. But if you don't kill us, there are many bears and lions that Hashem can send to kill us anyway. And so he ignored their warnings, he killed them, and a minute hadn't passed, and a soldier comes from Rome and cracks his head open. And that's the way the Gemara ends. The question is, what do they mean? We're Chayiv Misa anyway. Were they just talking, in a confident manner, let's say, under the pressure? Or were they saying something very deep? And so Rav Dessler brings this Gemara and says the following idea. That true, we have limited free choice. But as we move through life, we make choices. And as we make those choices, we become different people. And therefore, Turainus wasn't punished necessarily for killing those two rabbis. Because in that situation, maybe he was just like a bear and a lion. But he is punished for making himself into an animal. He is punished for going down that route of bad decisions that led him to a place where he no longer had a decision. Right? Imagine a Nazi officer, Yimach Shemam. Imagine them. Right? Could you say they had a free will choice every time they flipped the switch on the gas, but the social pressure, imagine if they would have refused. Okay, maybe they didn't have a free will choice then, but they certainly had a free will choice joining the Nazi party. Not everyone did. And therefore they'll be punished for every single one of their actions, even if it wasn't based on free will, if the only reason they got into that situation was based on their free will. By the way, the same is true for the good. Let's say you don't choose to keep Shabbos, but the reason you're in a situation keeping Shabbos every week is because you made good choices. So then you get schar also for that. Okay. This is all according to the Aruch HaShulchan, that everything comes from heaven, everything comes from above, but there is another way of reading these Gemaras. Let's go back to the Gemara in Chulin. The Gemara in Brachos. Hakol b'dei shamayim chutz mi'Yerushalayim also appears in Sechas Megillah. Rashi then, Brachos, explains that a person doesn't choose how tall they are, how wealthy they are, their skin color. What he doesn't say is the things that happen to him. So maybe, just maybe, Rashi doesn't, when the Gemara says that, Rashi isn't talking about the things that happen to you, he's talking about the circumstances of life that you begin with. The family you're born into is not your choice. The genes that you get is not your choice. And is not subject to free will. But maybe certain things that happen to you are part of your free will. And the Orach Chaim actually says this mefurish. He says this explicitly. He's commenting on Mechiras Yosef, that the brothers, they don't want to kill Yosef, but they throw him into a pit with snakes and scorpions. How does that make any sense? Right? Is there a difference between murder directly as opposed to murder indirectly? And it's the same result in the end. The Orach Chaim says very powerfully, a person has free will. A person can kill someone who isn't chayev mitah. Masha'en kan chayot ra'ot lo yifgu ba'adam im lo yitchayev mitah l'shamayim. Animals don't have free will. They only do what Hashem tells them to do. There's a Tosfos in Chulin saying, you've got to make sure you don't put yourself in dangerous situations. Maybe there'll be a gezer in Shamayim that you should be harmed because you put yourself in a dangerous situation. But a person can harm another person even if they are not chayav mitah, says the Orach Chaim. And so to speak, we have two extremes. The Aruch HaShulchan that argues everything is min hashamayim, and on the other hand, the Orach Chaim who argues that no, people have the ability to harm each other even if the damaged party is not deserving. The Rambam is a bit of a nuanced shita in the middle. And it goes like this. The Rambam in Moreh Nevuchim explains that there is hashgacha of everything in the world. But there's hashgacha klalit. That means the species of animals is protected by HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and that's how it survives through history. But there's no hashgacha pratit. There's no individual hashgacha. But people have individual hashgacha, says the Rambam. And so in Moreh Nevuchim, Chelek Gimel, Perek Yud Ches, Piska Aleph, right at the beginning of that parak. But then he qualifies. He says, I know I said that every individual has a hashgacha pratit, but this hashgacha pratit is not equal for all people. Lo tiyeh im ken hashgacha elokit b'bnei adam kulam b'shaveh. It's not equal amongst people. Right? B'nevi'im otzma ma'od lefi madregatam b'hanevuah. The Nevi'im have great hashgacha pratit because they're so amazing. The Chassidim and all the tzaddikim have amazing hashgacha, but the Rishaim, they don't have personal. The hashgacha is on a much lower level. It's easy to kill Rishaim because they have less hashgacha pratit. And he summarizes at the end, Rotzoni lomar al hashgacha bi'ish ish m'bnei adam kefi ma shehu. The hashgacha on each person depends on who he is. We'll end off with a Rashi who says this in maybe less philosophical terms. He gives a mashal. He says, when Amalek attacked Am Yisrael, it wasn't that Hashem called Amalek to attack us. He says, what's it like? It's like a father who carries his son on his shoulders. And the son asks, where is my father? I can't see him. Where is he? And he asks, so he meets someone, he says, where is my father? So his father lets him down off his shoulder, and as the sun goes down, the dog bites. So what's the nimshal? There is a hashgacha pratit, and Hashkadosh Baruch Hu is protecting us all the time and giving us exactly what we need and what we deserve. But if you choose to deny Hakadosh Baruch Hu, if you choose to act in a fashion that doesn't reflect that madriga, then you are left with a situation where you are open to the elements, you are open to the free will of other people and their evil intentions. Okay, so this is where we're going to end off for today. I think we shared a lot of different things. If you have any questions, feel free to be in touch.